The one help we have right now in terms of building out pipelines is the Inflation Reduction Act and trying to streamline and make permitting process easier. Is it going to work?
Well, I would say, you know, we were all hopeful that the two things would be tied together when that was in progress, and we're very hopeful for that. Everybody in the industry right now is, you know, guessing and wondering whether or not the permitting reform will actually come through in a way that's super effective. It's a very complex issue, and really getting it done such that we can move ahead with very effectively building out the infrastructure in the U.S., both for the sake of natural gas pipelines and renewables. We've got a lot of changes that need to be made, and it's a very complex issue, and so I don't think that there will be support for anything that is not comprehensive and detailed enough to make it happen.
Where do we need the pipelines the most right now? And what's the probability that those pipelines get built that we really need?
Well, clearly, the by far the largest gas resource, and probably I think one of the more important gas resources in the entire world, is the Marcellus and the Utica. And so there have been now 3 pipelines out of that area that were certificated. In other words, the FERC had given them a certificate. So they'd gone through all the hurdles and spent 3 or 4 years in the permitting process, and then it still didn't get built. And so Mountain Valley Pipeline is kind of the last one hanging on right now that everybody in the industry is hoping it will get built. That's about a 2 BCF a day pipeline. Really important for people to understand that we think about gas and gas prices. Our problem is not lack of gas supplies. We have plenty of low-cost gas supplies here in the U.S., but if we don't have the pipeline to get it from those places like the Marcellus and the Utica to the points of consumption, people are going to be really upset this winter when they realize that their utility bills are up, not because we don't have low-cost gas here in the U.S. and not because we're exporting it on the LNG basis, but because we simply keep standing in our own way to get critical pipeline infrastructure built.
Expectations are really high that the U.S. is going to export a ton of LNG, the projects are in the pipeline, et cetera. Are we going to be able to do that if we don't have the pipelines? Are we going to meet those expectations?
Yeah, you know, the good news is right now in the immediate term, the Haynesville, which is in the state of Louisiana, where we have a lot of growing LNG export capacity, a lot of pipeline. We have a project that's a 1.8 BCF a day pipeline project called Louisiana Energy Gateway. That project's going ahead. There's another project called Gulf Run. There's likely another project that will come behind as well. So a lot of infrastructure rapidly getting built to take gas from the Haynesville into the LNG. And then additionally, the Permian natural gas supplies, and that also is within the state of Texas and therefore doesn't go through the FERC regulatory process to build that out. So those two areas, the Permian and Haynesville, are in the short term going to help us, but the big resource we have in the U.S. is the Marcellus and the Utica, and we've got to find a way to get the permitting reform process.
Walk me through how this works. So we've recently hit about 100 billion cubic feet a day of natural gas production. Where does that go to? Where do we top out? How much can that get to? And what happens if we don't get the kind of pipeline capacity we need out of the Marcellus? Like, are we sitting like serious regional oversupply? Which seems crazy in this market right now.
We won't have, I mean, the producers are smart enough up there, and they've been up against this before where they overproduce relative to the pipeline capacity, and so the local prices took a big dive. They're not going to do that again. They're smart, intelligent people, and
okay, so we're not going to repeat like $2 natural gas situation.
I think we might see some short-term stuff like in the Haynesville right now. We are seeing some constraints coming out of the Haynesville right now, but the building's going on right behind it. In the Northeast, if you think about our business, it takes planning and timing. Mountain Valley Pipeline, everybody was expecting that to get built. It had its own certificate. It had a certificate to get built, and the market, including the demand side, was all expecting that to get built. It's a very important project for getting gas out of the Marcellus and the Utica. And so when that didn't get built, all of a sudden we were short natural gas by about 2 BCF a day. And so I think, to answer your question, the Northeast, I think we will get it built. We have a project called, Williams has a project called Regional Energy Access that is pending about a 30 or 40 day pending process in front of the FERC right now. So we should be hearing on that. That will be an outlet for gas coming out of the Marcellus and Utica, will be helpful as well.
So As you're planning, what's your estimate for U.S. gas production? Like, where do we get to? How high can it get?
We can easily meet the demands. Today we're at 100 BCF a day, as you mentioned, and another 20 BCF a day of LNG incremental supply, so 120 BCF a day. That is not difficult at all. It's not even a big stretch for us at all, as long as we have. In fact, today, just known resources in the Marcellus and the Utica and the Haynesville, we have about 30 years of supplies that can be produced at less than $5. And that's just what we know of today. So the gas supplies are not in fact, it's a huge bonus for the U.S.
Sure.
And why we don't get out there and take big advantage of it by reducing emissions around the world and having the energy security that we need here in the U.S. and by the way, helping our friends in Europe at the same time.